Lee is 47 this year. He is the loser among the losers in the game of life. Total debt of unemployed 10 years is 415 million. Not going out to make money. Life mainly depends on nibbling the old. His mother has supported her family by herself for 70 years and she endured low back pain and went to sell vegetables. The money earned in a month can't even repay the interest on his son's loan. Lee loves to bet on horses and steals his mother's money to place bets every time. When occasionally, lose most of the time. Even if he wins a small amount of money, Lee is ecstatic. Probably because I rarely enjoy the taste of winning, but Lee should actually be bored at home. Because Loan Shark has already blocked him on the racecourse. On this day he was caught and beaten violently. The other party threatened to kill him, scared him to tears and owed him 160 million. Loan usury is not as forbearing as banks. They forced him to sign an agreement, and if he didn't pay the money next month, he had to hand over a kidney and an eyeball. Lee signed. I don't know if he is short-sighted or he lives in the moment. 1 month later, he didn't think about it, but instead thought that he had to celebrate his daughter's birthday. Yes, he has a daughter who was sentenced to be raised by his ex-wife 3 years ago, and he can meet him occasionally. Lee bought her daughter's birthday gifts based on gambling. Play dozens of games in the claw machine, aiming at the best toys. It's a pity that I spent all my money and only caught a small black box. When he gave it to his daughter, he knew that it was actually a pistol-shaped lighter. Maybe this is a bad omen. The daughter still loves her father. Even if Lee is so poor that he can only take him to eat rice cakes, he does not complain. Seeing that his father was injured, he kept persuading him not to fight. The child is still pure, unlike his mother. Contempt for Lee is written on his face. After sending her daughter Lee to the subway station, right here, he met someone who changed his life. This is this handsome gentleman in a suit and leather shoes. This person took the initiative to talk to Lee, inexplicably suggested to him, let's play a game. You win, I give you 100,000, I win. You give me 100,000. Lee didn't believe it at all, but when he saw the cash that the other party had prepared, he immediately agreed to the other party. The game proposed is to play a picture. One person uses a piece of paper to hit another person's piece of paper. Just hit the opponent's paper until it turns over to win. First round, of course Lee didn't win, but the man in suit is very good at playing. I knocked over Lee's pictures in one fell swoop. You lose, take 100,000. See, Lee can't get it out. The man in the suit said I slap you, even if it offsets, saying that he slapped Lee. Lee was upset, he lost again and slapped again. On this day, Lee was slapped 7 times in a row and his face was flushed. And in the 8th game, he finally won once. Lee cheered and celebrated like a child after he was finished. He was about to slap the man in the suit, but he was grabbed by him. The man in a suit took out 100,000 and stuffed it into Lee's hand. Lee did not fight anymore. I have never seen such a good thing. I got 7 slaps and won money for several days. At this time, the man in the suit became serious. Called Lee's real name and revealed a brief history of his life. High school degree, worked as a car repairer for 20 years, was unemployed for 10 years, failed to do business twice, divorced for 3 years, daughter was 10 years old, and she was in debt of 400 million. Just signed a consent form to give up body organs today. Lee was stunned for a long time and could not speak. I saw the man in the suit took out a business card from his pocket. Just let Lee call this phone to sign up to play the game. What game to play by what name? Lee were confused, but seeing the man in the suit smiling mysteriously and leaving with the subway, Lee was never a suspicious person. To sum up his character, it's more like passing by. This night, Lee learned that her daughter would soon follow her stepfather to live in the United States. This parting is a farewell, unless he can prove to the judge that he has the financial means to support him, although it has reached the bottom of life. But Lee people have love in their hearts, and even more unrealistic ambitions, delusion that one day he can be loved by everyone. He has failed. As a good gambler, of course he signed up for the game by calling the phone on that card. After a voice confirmed his message, he asked him to wait somewhere. Although it was late at night, Lee went. Before long, a mysterious car appeared. There was a weird man wearing a mask in the car. Let Lee get in the car. As soon as Lee got in the car, a lot of white gas was expelled from the car, infiltrated his nervous system and immediately stunned him. When Lee wakes up, he finds himself in a strange place, surrounded by people in the same clothes. The same is true for myself. With 456 printed on his chest, there are hundreds of beds here, and closely monitoring every player. Everyone woke up and walked to the platform one by one. There is a big screen on the wall with a total of 456 players written. Lee is number 456, and he must be the last one to enter the game. He casually found an old gentleman to ask about the situation, but I saw the number 1 written on the chest of the old man. Could it be that this is the number 1 player? After a few casual conversations, Lee learned that the old man had a brain tumor. Time is short and life is hopeless, so I came here. The door suddenly opened and 9 figures in red uniforms and masks appeared. A loud welcome to the players, but the players interrupted them. Everyone was angry and asked why the man in red had kidnapped them so far. At this moment, the big screen suddenly showed the video of the players playing drawing with the man in the suit. It turns out that everyone was invited on this thief ship after winning 100,000. The same person reported the amount of debt for each person, each of which started at 300 million. It seems that no one here is not good, and the game organizer knows them very thoroughly. When the man in red finished speaking, a huge piggy bank suddenly dropped from the ceiling. Said this is the bonus container, it will be full in the future. The man in red was asking if anyone wanted to quit, but no one answered. They arranged for the players to sign a consent form, a total of 3 treaties. 1. The player cannot interrupt the game. 2. Players who refuse to play the game will be considered eliminated. 3. If more than half of the players agree to interrupt the game to sign, after taking a good picture, everyone came to the game field, which is a huge space. Here Lee actually recognized an old person, is his childhood playmate. 1 year younger, he is a top student of Seoul National University, a financial investment bank tycoon. These are what Lee heard his mother say. But now playmate is embarrassed, it's not to deny it, and it's not to remember the past. I'm here to prove my failure. He owed more than 600 million yuan for embezzling public funds, 200 million more than Lee. The game will start soon. The first game is 1 2 3 wooden people. There is a giant doll 500 meters away from the players, they cannot be seen moving by him, and reach the end within 5 minutes. This is too pediatric, right? The game starts, the doll starts counting, the two began to run wildly and ran out tens of meters in an instant. It seems that I want to be the first to win. When the doll turned her head, the guy in the front hadn't stood still. He was seen moving. The doll turned around again, and everyone hasn't reacted yet. Only the second brother leaned forward and saw the first vomit a pool of blood. When the baby turned her head, the little brother was already frightened, and his legs moved back subconsciously. Now the doll's electronic eyes detected his movement, and the little brother ran away. Everyone saw the burst of plasma. One person started running, dozens of people followed. All kinds of psychology make people give up rationality. Many people are lucky, thinking that they can escape detection in the crowd. They forgot. It was a machine. In just 10 seconds, I could only hear the gunshots, like a continuous gun. Many people came to the gate, but couldn't open the door. They were all shot at the gate. When the old man walked for 2 rounds, someone followed him forward. Every time the doll turned around, people who moved accidentally were shot and he 1 2 3 wooden man voice became faster and faster. It means that the time they can move forward is getting shorter and shorter. Lee was still trembling. Wu told him to get up quickly and hide behind others. Time has passed halfway, and if you don't move forward, you will undoubtedly die. Lee had to get up and didn't take a few steps. The bunker he chose was headshot right in front of him. Lee wanted to run, but his leg was caught. He was actually wounded. This man cried and begged him for help. With only 1 minute and 15 seconds left, how can there be time to be a good person? Lee broke away from the man cruelly, and then heard him being shot behind him. At the last minute, many people rushed to the end. Lee is coming soon too, but anxious, he did not notice that his arm on the ground tripped over. As soon as the doll turned her head, a hand suddenly grabbed his collar. He was a South Asian. He risked his life to save Lee's life. The next time you turn your head is the last chance. Lee and the South Asian sprinted with all their strength, finally flew past the end. The time returned to 0, only 18 gunshots were heard, and the 18 people who failed to reach the end were all killed. There was silence on the court, and everyone who survived was immersed in fear. No one knows what they will experience afterwards. The camera zoomed out. They were on an island. What is the conspiracy of this game? Half an hour later, in the bedroom, everyone was sitting on the ground, head down, unable to calm down for a long time. Lee thanked Wu and the South Asians. They saved his fortunes. Suddenly, the man in red appeared. Report the result of the game to everyone. 456 people passed the 201 people, and 255 were eliminated. In the first game, more than half died. A woman rushed out and knelt down and shouted, "I have a child," begging the man in red to make a living. Within a few seconds, I knelt down when I was there. More than a dozen people begged for mercy, crying one after another, but the man in red on the other side was indifferent. At this moment, Wu, who was extremely astute, remembered the agreement they had signed. More than half of the players agreed to interrupt the game. He made this request loudly, and the man in red agreed on the spot to arrange a vote. Before the vote, the piggy bank above everyone's head suddenly became exhausted. Then countless bills fell from the pipe above. Bundles fell off for several minutes. Everyone was dumbfounded in the past few minutes, looking up at the pile of money. When the money is finished, the piggy bank is half full. Listening to the man in red explain that 255 people died, there was a bonus of 25.5 billion here. If you give up these bonuses now, they won't be given to you. At the beginning of the voting, Lee was the first to vote. Of course he chose to stop. He regretted his life. The second old lady glanced at the huge bonus and voted to continue. Wu, who is very deep in the city, also voted to continue. The woman who just begged for release also voted to continue. Fortunately, there are many people who understand the truth that people die for money and birds die for food. 10 minutes later, the number of votes turned out to be a dramatic 1-to-1. Only one person left whether to continue or stop. It's all about this old gentleman. Lee took a look, and his heart sank. Remembering how happy the old man was just playing games, would a mortal man with an unresectable tumor really cherish his life? But to his surprise, the old man chose to stop. So the game ends here. All players were anesthetized, blindfolded, and thrown back to the center of Seoul. Recovering his life, Lee immediately went to the police. But the mysterious organization is too concealed. His only clue was the business card, but the phone number on the business card was empty. The story is so incredible that the police don't believe him at all. And once back to normal life, Lee found after years of evasion, he started backlash and his mother fell ill. He never knew he had diabetes and his feet had been ulcerated after he was never treated. It was shocking. Mom did not want to be hospitalized after waking up. He doesn't seem to want to live anymore, and he is desperate for his son. Lee just wants to take responsibility now. He borrowed money everywhere, but everyone around him knew his virtue. None of them were willing to borrow, only one borrowed. The husband of his ex-wife. But this person has a condition for Lee to never show up in front of his family again. Lee beat him up in anger and didn't need the money. His self-esteem made him give up life-saving straw, but how can one have the worst cards and the most ambitious at the same time? Lee see a new mysterious business card in front of his house. He really signed up again. He wants to continue the game and win 45.6 billion won. He hopes that the fewer people who come back to play the game, so that he will win more. But unfortunate people have their own misfortunes. When Lee returned to the bedroom, he saw 187 people re-entering the game, with a re-entry rate of 93%. Old Mr. Wu, the South Asian guy, and the curly-haired girl who claims to have children to take care of Jang are back. This time, people no longer fight alone, but hug each other for safety. Lee and Mr. Wu South Asia guy formed a group. Jang also formed a gang full of evils and recruited 4 unwholesome people. He also wanted to recruit his former subordinate, a smart girl. The girl had seen his vile nature long ago and rejected him. He knew that gangs might not be useful. The key is to know what to play next game. He has his own plan. Late at night, he used the excuse to go to the toilet and got in through the ventilation pipe. After crawling for tens of meters, he came to the top of the kitchen. I saw a large group of people in red stirring something in the cauldron, yellow liquid, white powder. It must be sugar. He didn't understand it, but there was not enough time, so he could only go back. The girl thought hard for a whole night, but couldn't figure it out. But on the way for all players to play the game, Wu approached him, asked what he saw. It turned out he noticed that he went to the toilet last night. After returning, I heard the discussion between him and his colleagues. With a high IQ, he guessed the girl's movements, and the girl told him the information. Wu thought for a while and inferred the game they were going to play next. Melt the white sugar at high temperature and stir repeatedly to form sugar liquid. Use a mold to extrude a pattern before solidification, and sell it to children. After solidification, the children will cut out the small graphic in the middle. Before the game started, the players came to a square. I saw the 4 gates are round triangles, 5 pointed stars and umbrellas. At this time they don't know what they are going to play, so everyone went to each door to line up according to their preferences. However, if you know what you want to play, you can never choose complicated graphics, because it is extremely difficult for you to cut out that kind of graphics, and now only Wu with high IQ reasoned out what they want to play. But Wu did not tell his companions this information. I also suggest that teammates spread out and line up, which is really unpredictable. He was the first to choose the triangle. The South Asian guy chose a round shape, the old man chose a 5-pointed star, Lee chose an umbrella. Hearing that Lee chose this way, Wu couldn't hide his shock, because he knew he would almost die if he chose this one. He is in conflict. Should he save his childhood buddies? But in the end he still didn't stop. When choosing triangle and with a girl who shared information with him before lined up with him, the smart game started. Everyone received a box and asked to use a needle to cut out the graphics. If you break the graphic or don't cut it out within 10 minutes, then you're going to die. I chose the triangle and the circle, and I'm very thankful. Look at the candy in this man's hand. He just accidentally broke it. He raised his head in horror. The man in red walked towards her, listening to her begging for mercy, but was shot headshot. The gunshots continued, and 7 or 8 people died one after another. The girl's hand is very steady. What he received is a triangle. Just slide along a straight line. The South Asian got a round shape. He chose to break off the shell with his fingers. The old man got a 5-pointed star, which is very difficult. What's more terrible is the unobedient shaking of his 2 hands. The hardest part was Lee, who also got an umbrella. It's hard to get started. I can only start from the edge very slowly. The curly-haired girl hid under the slide. It turned out that she was secretly burning the needle with the lighter she had mixed in. The hot needle went to pick up the sugar, and it melted quickly. 5 minutes later, the players who received the triangle cut out the triangle, including the girl, and Wu Ali, who received the circle, also used a dexterous hand to break out the circle, and the curly girl also cut out the 5-pointed star. Passed successfully before leaving the field, he gave the lighter to Jang, motioned him to warm up the needle to see. Lee was already sweating profusely, and he didn't even buckle 1/3. It can almost be concluded that he is bound to die. At this moment, his sweat dripped on the sugar. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration, and he raised the candy. He saw that the area on the back where the sweat had been dripped became thinner. He immediately started licking candy. The thinner boundary will break first. After he did this, everyone around him followed suit, and the old gentleman also learned. Time came to the last 30 seconds. Jang used a heated needle to dig out the star. The old man also picked out the 5-pointed star. In the last few seconds, Lee felt the candy pieces loosen. Finally he broke out the umbrella. Time is up for him to pass. All those who were not detained for poisoning were slaughtered. When Lee returned to the bedroom, it's very fortunate to see the old gentleman South Asian and Wu all survived a catastrophe. Only Wu has a complicated mood. His plan is to let the weak in the team be eliminated. I didn't expect Lee and the old man to survive. Phoenix Games killed 79 people and injected another 7.9 billion in prize money. Everyone is more excited, more fearful, and this extreme emotion will inevitably lead to crazy violence. It only takes a little spark to ignite. For dinner on this day, the administrators brought food. Everyone only had an egg and a bottle of water. The lack of supplies caused Jang's dissatisfaction, but he dared not resist. At this time, she has colluded with the curly girl. He encouraged him to line up a second time, redeeming eggs and water twice. As a result, 5 people didn't receive it when it was distributed. The administrators refused to add the number of copies. A player knew that Jang took 2 copies, angrily went over to make trouble for him, and the two soon began a physical conflict. Jang grew up fighting and no one stepped forward to stop him. Jang actually beat the man to death. Lee saw people dead. Feeling that the situation was going too far, he asked the administrator to be fair, but the people in red were silent. Collectively, the number was reduced and a new 100 million yuan was injected into a piggy bank. Now everyone understands, the administrator allows violence between players and cannibalism is also a game. Before turning off the lights, we warned everyone not to sleep tonight. Stay vigilant, someone might kill someone. In order to increase the survival rate, those scumbags can do everything. Lee saw Jang staring at the girl knowing he might be in danger. The kind-hearted, he hurried to find the girl and invited him to join their team. But the girl didn't trust him and refused. Before night fell, a man who claimed to be a doctor approached Jang and his gang request to join their team. He doesn't look tough, but he whispered a word in Jang's ear and was allowed to join the group. What he said is, "I know what to play next game, lights out." Jang gets out of bed first, came to the bedside of a woman who had scolded him twice in line, and brutally killed him. The battle royale in the dark began, and the feared people got out of bed one after another, afraid of being assassinated. In the dark, no matter who you hit, must treat the other party as a wicked person, and then start fighting each other with fate. The next person Jang will kill is the girl. Fortunately, the girl has agility and escaped the hunt. He ran up to Lee and asked to join his team. Lee immediately agreed. When he saw Jang rushing over, he pushed the girl away and bravely went to fight with Jang. When Jang's gang came over, Lee's team also took up tools to fight back, and the two sides were in a stalemate. At this moment, the old man climbed to a high place, shouting loudly, begging everyone to stop the violence. The light suddenly turned on. At the same time, one person came in with a gun, forcing the player to stop fighting each other. This escape game finally ended. 27 players died and only 80 people remained. The Jang group didn't plan to give up. They decided to continue to kill tomorrow night. Lee and the team are fortunate. In order to strengthen trust and cohesion, everyone reports their real names and backgrounds. The South Asian man's name is Ali, and he came here for his wife and children in Pakistan. He was deceived by a black-hearted boss in South Korea and broke 2 fingers. The girl's name is Kong, a North Korean who smuggled into South Korea. A younger brother is in an orphanage in South Korea. He needs money to take care of his younger brother and bring his mother to South Korea. Wu misappropriated public funds to invest in stocks and secretly mortgaged his mother's house and fish shop. But he didn't tell everyone about these. His self-esteem is too strong. The old man was incomplete in a word. He should have been tranced by the violence just now. Lee saw him like this and immediately comforted him. Jang and the curly girl have an appointment in the toilet. Girl knows in the dangerous squid game must rely on the strongest man. So gave myself to Jang in exchange for him to follow him all the time. It's a pity that he doesn't know Jang. The next day, when Snakehead learned from the doctor what the third game was, he immediately decided to abandon the beauty. Before the game starts, the administrator asks the players to form a team by themselves. A group of 10 Jang ordered his men to recruit men with strong physiques everywhere. Women and old people can't ask for one, and Lee also has to recruit newcomers. According to Wu's calculations, there is a high probability that men will be needed for team matches. He also asked everyone to find men who seem to be athletic. Unfortunately, his team has too many uncontrollable factors. Girl's chivalrous heart saw a lonely girl that nobody wanted, so invited him into the team. The old man was distracted throughout the whole process and failed to invite anyone. At the same time, the beauty went to find Jang to join the team, but was rejected by Jang. He has gathered 10 strong men. Regardless of whether the beauty threatened or begged, Jang could not be saved. There is no way. He can only join the team that is not full, that is, the Lee team. As a result, the team had an old man and 3 women could only ask for blessings. The game is about to begin. They come to a dark space. 2 tall towers stand in a gap above the head. This game is a tug of war. And Jang's team is complacent. And Lee's group will inevitably panic, because they are the weakest group. The rule of the tug of war game is on a 50-meter high platform. The 2 teams are facing each other, and the losing team will fall off the platform, and all will fall into meat pie. The first group is Jang's all-men's team against another team. Jang is very confident, and the other team was full of gloom, and could only bite the bullet. The 2 teams came to the 2 towers. Everyone's hands are locked with the rope. It is absolutely impossible to let go of the rope. The game hasn't started yet. Jang's team overwhelmed the opponent. The game started. Jang's team tried their best. No suspense. They quickly pulled them over.